Welcome back, everybody. I decided to split this video series up into 3 parts because it went way over an hour long. I thought it'd be a little bit easier to view. So welcome back. Here's part 2. All right, next, I have to show another awesome, super duper talented guy. Super nice as well. Paul Felix. Amazing work. Paul Felix did something that was remarkable in the animation industry back in the 90s. Okay? Not only could he draw very well, I was lucky enough I got to take a couple classes with Paul, and I know his brother, because he has a brother named Phil, and I was able to hang around Phil a little bit and take some classes and stuff. Super duper nice people, and Paul is just so nice. But the one thing about Paul is that he came from part of that background. Again, he was a layout artist. He was responsible. I know for a fact he started off at Deke back in the day doing storyboard revision work and cleanup, and worked his way up. And then when he got into Disney television, I know he was working around Michael Spooner and a couple other individuals, okay, Jim Schlenker and a couple other people, and he built up his skill sets. He became a very fast layout artist. And I remember having a class with him and hearing him. He was just starting off at Disney Feature and listening to him talk about, sometimes at Disney we had to do anywhere from 2 to 4 environments in a day. That's 2 hours a piece. That's a great thing about working with Prismacolor pencil. Working on tracing papers, it allows you to sketch and draw very quickly, and it's very forgiving and allows you to pull out highlights very quickly. Still, in my opinion, I consider one of the all-time greatest tools for working, and especially when it comes to any form of drawing or sketching. Okay? Beautiful work here. Okay? Look at the wide, expansive environment shots. Okay? Remember we talked about bringing your viewer into the world. How do you do that? How do you take your viewer? If I can go back to slide number 1, we talked about those key things, right? Wide angle shots, making them aware of what's happening. Also, I got into the other 4 areas that were a little bit more important in terms of development, right? Storytelling. Is there a particular shot inside the script that's being asked for? Okay, what would that shot look like? What would it look like when a group of people or a king or queen are being escorted to the top of this civilization that's living in the Andes Mountains, okay? How would you compose that shot? What's part of the emotional basis behind it? Next, I have to show the awesome Michael Spooner, okay? I mentioned this before. I was really lucky that Michael happened to be, hired me to work at Big Idea with him and a couple other artists, and he was not only my boss, but he became like a mentor for me over the next 3 to 4 years. Getting to sit in a room with this guy and watch him design and pick his brain. Some of my best experience in my life between 1999, 2000 to 2004 when I moved out of Chicago and came back to Southern California, right? I learned so much from being around this guy, the way that he works. He's also one of our guest speakers. The other day I discovered 4 hours of the recording of when he was the guest speaker. I have it at home on my camera. So I just need to put it all together on a video and I can render it out, right? And then ask Michael if it's cool and I could share that with you guys. I think it is cool because we recorded it, but when you look at Michael was really good. That's why he was working in visual development. He was really good at bringing the viewer's eye into the piece and moving it around. He knew how, by using tone and value, how to bring you in, move you through shapes and variation, and take you right to one particular area. He's a genius at that. Without a doubt, I mentioned earlier that I think that Michael has some of the strongest composing skills that I've seen, okay, from any designer. He knows how to work with tone very well, and I've seen some of the new work he's doing over at SPA, Sony Pictures Animation, okay? I saw some of the work he did on the recent Pixar movie for Monsters, okay? He's doing beautiful stuff, great designs, I still go back to these because, to me, these are more accessible to you guys as students, where your goal should be to try to draw like this. And if you can draw like this and work and tone like this, you're going to start pushing yourself to that upper echelon of understanding design and composing and light. Every one of these scenes has a way of pulling you inside there. Every one of these scenes has dedicated contrast in it. It has shape arrangement. It has adjustment of scale. It has grouping consistencies and variables in there, okay? It has every aspect of composition. If you were to go look up a list of composition and you were to look at unity, harmony, balance, okay, contrast, all of this is what makes somebody a pro, all that information coming back into their work, right? Okay? It's beautiful stuff, Look at the scale of the people in there. So if you want to sketch people in your scene, go for it. You don't have to put a ton of detail on them. You can just have them like that. Have them as scale reference. Nothing's wrong with that. It doesn't make it feel empty. One of the things about not having people or a person inside a scene is makes it look like a big ghost town, like nobody lives here anymore. All right. Next, super amazing, super duper talented guy who's totally friendly. I've had the opportunity to know for many, many years because we took classes together, is John Tavares, right? I met John way back in the day when I met Steven Silver and a bunch of other guys as we were all taking classes at Associates in Art. And then we hung around this guy named Charles Zimbalis, who had created the Animation Academy in Burbank, and we would all meet on Wednesday nights. We would sit down in a room with Felix, and we would draw together. And inside that room was myself, it was Steve Silver, John, it was another guy, Jose Lopez, okay, that also does really talented work. Another guy by the name of Snakebite. It was cool. It was great to sit in a room with people and just draw and sketch all evening, listening to good music, having coffee. It's something that we should do, but now we're on computers and lines, but it'd be fun just to sit around and just sit and pick a topic and sketch. That's what we used to do. It was great. John's strengths, okay? John's an amazing draftsman, and do you see the piece here? He has extremely high energy in his work. And remember what I told you before about John in the beginning? John comes from a storyboarding background. His ability to tell stories and stage is key. That's one thing that makes this guy a fantastic visual development artist, is he can draw, has high energy, knows how to stage, knows how to pose, knows how to draw characters, and if you combine that with a little bit of color work, you know what you get? Boom, that's what you get right there. That's some of his development work he was doing up at Pixar when he was working on the last Cars production, okay? The ability to go in there, comp out something, make it look rough, make it look fun and neat, heavy action filled with color, displaying what's taking place in a particular part of the script. So this here is adhering to what I talked about in the beginning. How do you adhere to the script when you're given you're giving specifics that you have to follow, and there's the name of a particular race, you're going to see the character zooming around a corner. What does that look like? You have to follow those guidelines to know where you're going to land, okay? Another script piece here, right? Another sketch. Look at the energy in there. So if you look at that energy, and I go back 2 slides, you see the energy in there? Do you see why I tell some of you guys to break the tip off your pencil and draw with your pencil sideways to avoid having to render? And also you're adjusting range of movement by drawing with a pencil in your fingers. You're limited to this movement. This is one of the problems I see in a lot of Cintiq work, is that you do this. Your hand holding a Cintiq pen only moves 45 degrees. That's it. When you hold a pencil sideways, like in figure drawing, and you're drawing from your upper shoulder, you have full range of motion, which is 360 degrees, like this. You get a lot more gestural. Why would that be important? Let me think about it. Why? Because if you can get to this level of confidence and sketchiness in your work, okay, that's pivotal. It's funny, if someone were to walk up to John, I love this because someone mentioned this to me. I'm going to use this example here. I'll be sitting there and I'm drawing in my sketchbook, and someone walks up to me and they're all, "Oh, my cousin's an artist." And then the first thing they do is, "How long did that take you to draw?" And so imagine someone walk up to John and be like, "John, how long did that take you?" I know that probably took John about 40 minutes to an hour. Maybe even 25 minutes, depending the mood, if he was feeling the vibe and was in the mood, right? Okay? But that really took John, it took him 20 years. Because he started drawing when he was a little kid and kept drawing and drawing and drawing and practice and practice and practice. And the more you draw, the better your mileage get. The better your mileage get, the better your work gets. And I'm saying that as I'm looking at Charmaine, and I'm looking over at Simeon, I'm looking at Anthony, I'm looking at lots of students, Trevor and Tim. Some of you guys came in here, even David, right? Beverly, some people come in here. Paul Kim had a huge jump. You guys sucked for a little bit. And then all of a sudden you will go, bam, you jump up and you get better. Not that you sucked, like you're bad people or anything. You sucked because no one had taught you the emphasis and the importance of placing time into your craft and practicing it to such a level and sketching on a regular basis what that does. And now you see what it does. You see what your drawings look like. When I first met Anthony back there, all he could do was model. He couldn't draw anything, right, Anthony?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, right? And I remember Paul once was like, I don't know, right? And I'd be like, Paul, do this. He'd be like, okay, right? And now he's like killing it. He's doing great work, right? That's all about the mileage. The more time you spend into it, the more you contribute into your own work. That's the greatest thing about being an artist. You're making yourself better with your own practice. So if you get up every morning and you allocate a couple of hours to draw, you're just going to get better. If you dedicate 6 to 8 p.m. every night of drawing in your sketchbook, you're going to be awesome. That's the first thing I remember I learned from Paul Felix, is he sat there and he opened up this little sketchbook that he had, and he'd been going home. And this is back in Associates in Art, right? Back in like 94, 95. He'd been going home every evening from Disney television, and then as he was making his transition into Disney feature, and he was drawing his apartment from 100 million views out of his imagination, drawing it from top views, low views, side views, tilted views, angled views, worm's eye view, ladder view, coffee cup view, backwards view, top view, you name it. He had all these sketches. He was constantly drawing. He didn't sit there and be like, oh no, what am I going to draw today, and have to think about it. He just dove into it. Same thing with John. The guy just sits down and he just cranks. You just draw. You have fun. Some more of John's work right there. So that's what I talked about within the scene. When you have to go inside a particular location, show something that's going to happen within a particular scene. I refer to that. You have your number one is your wide angle establishing shots. Number two, coming within a scene to show something. And I put a little comment on here. This is script specific. There's probably an exact location, Cal, for them being inside a residence, and what does that look like? The viewers that have watched Pixar movies have never seen that before. So John's going to be responsible for, pulling that out. Here's another piece that John did. I believe he did this back on the day when he was working with Sam Mitchlap on Astro Boy. Okay, love this piece here, because what was really cool, I remember talking to John once at a convention. He's like, yeah, man, getting to work in Photoshop, using the lasso tool. Boom, there it is. That's that jump for him, going from the Prismacolor pencil into using shapes, variations, tones, and then painting in a little bit of light right there. That's an exercise I would love to do in the next digital painting class. Pick the interior of a car, look at John's work, and do your own interior of a car looking out at something. Why not? It's absolutely wonderful. It's a great way to work. Also working from dark to light, using the rules of atmospheric perspective, right? Now I'm feeling guilty. We're at 40 minutes almost, and we're on slide 36 of 95. So, see, I knew this would happen. One little lecture turned into this big, magnificent thing, but it's all encompassing, and there's a lot of information there, right? So, anyway, I could split it. Another more beautiful work from John, right? Storytelling, script-specific work, right? And then there's another piece that John was working on, and that was for, God, what was the name of this project? I know it's on the tip of my tongue, too. Come to me in a minute. It was a story about wolves and sheep and everything, and it sort of fell apart. The studio that was called Imagi. I don't know what happened to them. I think it sort of dissolved as like a Korean-based company. They did produce a couple films. They had Astro Boy that came out, and John worked on that. I was sort of bummed because I had the chance to go work on a project with them there, and to work with John and Sam Mitchlap, who's another amazing designer, and I had to say no to it because my daughter was born at the time, and I was really busy on a current project, and I was becoming like stay-at-home dad, where I was freelancing from home all the time while my daughter was little. So anyway, pretty cool when you look at that, though. Sort of missed that opportunity, but then again, I'm glad I got spending it with my daughter was worth its weight in gold as compared to getting to work on a particular production, right? Anyway, next, we got to jump in, back again, Armand Serrano, okay? We're talking about within a particular scene. If something happens in a location, if you have a key point of information that's taking place in one location, boom, you better think about that location and draw it. This was a store. Does anybody know what environment this was from or what movie? I think this is from Lilo and Stitch, okay? This is one of the pivotal parts that was in there. And I look at this, and it's funny because sometimes you don't get to see work that people are working on during a particular year span, and then you run into it later, and you're like, dude, he's so good, and it's like the drawing is so amazing, And again, some of you, I've been talking about details. I've been talking about what's your ceiling, what's your floor, grouping. Look at the grouping in here. That's a group, that's a group, that's a group. That's a separate group. That's a group. See it? There's a lot of stuff in there, right? But you simplify it by grouping. That's the understanding of composing and composition. Okay? Right? Another within scene, right? That's something he did just a couple years ago. That was obviously for the Zootopia. Okay, more beautiful work from Armand. All right. Another great scene. This is the part that drives me nuts. Is I imagine the amount of people looking at this that are like, oh, I'm just going to go work in Photoshop. I was like, I get that, but strengthen your drawing skills. If you're not drawing in your sketchbook, there's a problem, right? You have to be in that sketchbook all the time. You have to be working on your craft to get it better. You can't always do that through, a bunch of other drawings. So next, jumping back over to Paul Felix again. I was mentioning this earlier. Paul Felix did something that's in part of this world of development that changed everything. Okay? What Paul did is when he was working at Disney Feature, he started combining characters and character design into his environments to tell a story. Remember, Paul had worked doing storyboard cleanup. So he's basically was taking part of what he had already knew and experienced, right? That's how we work as human beings, is the things we experience, the work we look at. We take little things and they go into our little cognitive memory data bank, and then we pull those things out and they come out into our work. So by immersing yourself around good artists, by looking at their work, by following their techniques and seeing what they do, and then learning something new, that's how you get better. And that's exactly what Paul did. He made that progression and changed what had happened in the studio environment, because at that time, nobody had been sketching characters. And nobody had been really loose with the characters. From a figure drawing standpoint, where the characters looked great, they had feel and passion. Look at that guy that's down there on the ground. Look at the guy up on the horse. I mean, look at their posing, composition. So now you're not just talking about environments. Now you're talking about dedicated key shots, specific scenes inside a script. Now you're adding up to a higher level of design inside that visual development umbrella. Okay, that's huge. Okay. Gee, how do I learn how to pose characters, and when do I pose them? Figure drawing. What? Oh, yeah, going to figure drawing, drawing models, developing your own style, embellishing on top of the model you see and changing it, adding your own taste to it. That's how you start to embellish. Okay? Or you can just take Paul and dress him up on a horse with a sword like that, right? And you can do that too, But point is, you got to dive in there, right? You just got to, get involved with your drawing and everything that you do. More Paul Felix. So to me, I remember seeing this work that he was doing, and I remember my jaw was like dropping open when I saw this back in the 90s. It's like nobody was drawing like this. And then he inspired all the other artists at Disney to start incorporating characters into their scenes. He was basically doing glorified storytelling by adding environments and characters together and bringing it into what I would say like workbooking or dedicated, high rendered storyboard panels. That's basically what he did. Key shot sequences, okay? I wanted to follow this slide up with John because I want you to see some similarities there. The rough and sketchiness feel. And then you go back to John, see that rough sketchiness feel. Why? They're drawing with Prismacolor pencils. Okay, that's why. All right? So before we looked at John's environments, okay, this is a thing I love about John. John, you saw his environments that he's been doing. Look at John's characters. His characters are astonishing. They're absolutely amazing. And the great thing about the way that he draws, sorry that's a little blur, that's the only copy I could find. Okay? The great thing about it is that John knows how to storyboard. That means John is still in his progression and growth as an artist. And he's going to continue to develop, because you're talking about a guy that when I met him wasn't too great with environments, but he was doing storyboarding. But he's good with characters and sketching characters. So now that he's been doing more environments and learning, he's been learning a couple things. He's been learning how to stage environments. He's been learning how to work in Photoshop and learning how to apply digital techniques in Photoshop, right? And you combine that with the ability to do this. Dude, I want to see what John's working on now, because with his staging ability, and you combine that with some color use, in the years to come, I'd say the next 5 years, if not currently work that we can't see, John is up there at approaching that master level. And this is pretty much the part of the lecture where I'm going to start to jump forward in a little bit right here and start talking about getting to that upper master level. So that master level is now you've been able to draw the environments and compose, but now you're able to go in and establish key shots. You're able to tell and dictate sequences that take place inside your environment. If you can pose characters roughly like this, and by the way, notice the characters aren't sitting there with their arms around each other standing as A's, right? No, they're in poses, they're doing something. You see silhouettes. If you can start to do stuff like this, place them in an environment, add lighting, boom, you're on your way. Okay, which I believe, to give credit to this, I thought this is Armand Serrano right here, but I just moved this down into this sequence here to talk about key shots and storytelling. Okay, same thing here, another piece by Armand. Surfs up, characters walking through an environment. Look at that beautiful environment, you know, just so gorgeous. I love this curvy organic stuff, and I come back in here and I see this like light detail rendering and stuff that looks like it was smudged with a Q-tip and lightly brought up. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, that's what this is what prepares somebody and starts to establish them into that upper echelon world. Now you're no longer just doing environments, you're doing key shot and storytelling. This is why I tell a lot of my students, learn how to do characters, learn the process of how to design with characters. Combine that with perspective, knowledge of perspective, and how to apply that into environments. Take that into tone, then start getting into color. Woo-wee. The rest is, it's up to you. From that point, you get to write your own ticket, right? Beverly, we talked about that. Writing your own ticket, right? Mastering these little areas. You start putting these things together. So this also leads us into another form of development we talked about, style. What's important about style? Okay? That's the great thing that I liked about this lecture I'm placing together today, is we've been able to look at everybody from Sparth to Paul Felix, a huge spectrum of very talented, great artists. And the thing is Michael Spooner, Paul Felix, Justin Sweet, Vance Kovacs, they all work in their own style. And they all develop their own style, but the one thing is they're always back in their sketchbook, right? So look at how round everything is. Look at how fun it is. Look at how that hill is like placed behind there with a road going up. It's different. It's fun. They're trying to push the roundness and see what you can, achieve. Okay? Look at that exterior. I was lucky I got to work on Chicken Little 2 for a little bit, and then they canned it. And Disney tossed it away. We were doing all kinds of fun designs, but then the merger with Pixar happened, and the first thing John Lasseter did is he turned around and shut down all the sequel productions, and our production got canned. But we were doing fun stuff. It was great. I learned so much from that show, because I learned getting to look at, we had a whole library of all this work from the Key show, and we were able to look at it, and we had to mimic this style. It was so much fun to get to do that. Learned so much just by observing this. Look at the wonkiness, the bends of the building, but yet, still in perspective. You can see the horizon line, you can still see under that ellipse. Right there, you see it? Okay? Even with the wonkiness, you can still see the curves in there. There's still a direction of light. You have a light side, a dark side. You have a light side, you have a shadow side. See? All that still comes together. We just did assignment like this in our sketching class, right, Simeon? Very similar to do this. Okay? And then I threw in another piece that I did back in the day. I had to do that for a big idea. Okay, I had literally one night to crank that piece out. I remember going home, taking my pens and my markers. I had just moved to Chicago, and I was living at a little place in Chicago suburbs called Four Lakes, a little apartment complex. It was snowing outside, and all I had in my apartment was a card table and a fold-up chair. I would stay at work with my buddy Joe Spataford and a couple other artists, Chuck Vollmer, Michael Spooner, another guy, another Joe. I'm forgetting his last name right now. I don't know why. Probably because I'm lecturing. And come home and I would sketch. And one of the things I loved doing was taking animation paper, taking blue pencil, going over it with markers and a pen. And for Big Idea, because it was VeggieTales, we had a very fun style that was supposed to be round shapes, lots of roundness, lots of gesture, not too many hard edges. Trying to incorporate that into something was a lot of fun to get to do that. There's another piece I did too for Big Idea. I actually did the centerpiece, and then they canned that, and then I added the dragon later with the kids. It was fun. It was great getting to work in Photoshop, but this piece taught me something. You know what it taught me? They only let I was only able to take with me, watch my cursor, if I draw this, that was the image that I did right there, was that. And then they gave me a compressed file of it, like really small. So I had to expand this. I didn't have any of the layers. This was a little technique I wanted to do. I built all of this house and all of that house from that house right there. I copied and pasted parts and transformed it. So you see that dormer right there? Part of that, this was the original piece cropped right here. That dormer, so this roof right here is part of that roof right there. That window was that frame, but with that window put inside it, okay? That little part right there was, came from part of this roof. I just lightened it, put it back over there. The fence ended, I added more fence, I added the street. I made that from part of that structure. I changed the windows here. I added a different face to it. I put a tree in front of it so you wouldn't notice the difference. And it was a great technique in reusing one piece by copying and pasting and using multiple parts over. I learned a tremendous amount from doing that piece. Okay? All right? Back again, John Tavares. What happens when you take a beautiful non-John Tavares drawing and you add, you already know values, and then you add color to it, you end up with a piece of mastery like that. Okay? Beautiful piece of artwork, right? And then you do a night version of that. Aha! And this is the end result when you have tone going into color. So we're going to pause right here, and then we'll be right back to look at a little bit more. Boom. We get into what I look at Paul Felix and I look at his work. We looked at some of early Paul Felix, right, when he's doing environments. Now what happens when you take Paul Felix, he's doing script work for a show, he's introducing character, he's introducing mood with tone and color, and he's adhering to the key sequences of his script. You become a master storyteller. Okay? Absolutely. I mean, look at this. This is beautiful when you get into this type of stuff. And then Paul just started to pretty much take off and explode at this point. Now he's doing full characters, posing with storytelling and a magic word called a narrative. I mentioned I'm writing 4 digital illustration classes this summer to add to our program here that I want to teach. Someone asked me here, argued with me a little bit, another faculty member, and said, well, what do you need 4 classes for? You already have classes in Photoshop. And I was like, classes in Photoshop and digital painting are based on technique. They're based on applying technique over and over and over to learn to master the technique to where you create your own techniques. The difference with illustrating is now you're introducing a narrative to the story, and that's night and day right there. That separates out beginners and mediocre artists to the upper extreme echelon. Paul Felix is that upper echelon. This guy has the ability to stage characters, environments, work in perspective, set up scenes. If you want to look at your work and you want to try to ascertain yourself to a higher position in life, boom, look at his work. If you can't draw a character like that, then you better start going to figure drawing meetings and start looking at characters. And if you can't draw an environment like that, then you better take environment design class. And if you can't color like that, then you better go start take a color theory class. Find your weakness and make yourself better, right? I'm not expecting you in this class to go into full color. Black and white is fine for your environments, or even light tone, something to separate it out. But I want to show you what you can achieve and what is the master level. This is something that me as an artist right now, I look at this and I want to achieve. Bye, Dan. I want to achieve this. I want to become better. I want to get to this level as an artist. This is one of my growth standards. But I made the decision hey, maybe I can still do freelance, maybe go back to the industry. What if I take this knowledge and apply it to my own line of children's books, my own properties? Why not? Absolutely. People do that. You have artists like Peter DeSeve, and a ton of other great artists. William Joyce. And I was thinking of the other guy. Who's the guy that illustrated Chris Van Allsburg? Polar Express. Amazing designers, right? Okay? Look at that. You just see this and you're like, man, Paul's too good, right? He's amazing. Look at that beautiful stuff. Look at the posing of the character. And my mother-in-law chasing that character, right? It's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite all-time pieces right there. Look at the cools against the warms. Look at the staging of it. Those of you in my environment design class, I've already posted up my lectures talking about the importance of one-point perspective. This is the shot in the scene where the key character, long-haired girl, what's her name? I know, I don't want to say her name though. You guys say it. Tangled, okay. Where she comes up, right? Princess Mononoke, I'm just kidding. Where she comes up, right? She's standing here and she looks up and she finds the truth out about where she came from, about her parents. That's huge. So when I talked about pivotal scenes, that is a pivotal scene right there that has to incorporate some form of a very, very important emotional impact to the audience. What is that going to be? So some of you can draw this right now. Then you've got to learn how to add tone and light it. Then eventually you will get to the point where you can start using color. But you cannot skip those steps, because if you skip them and go right to color, you're going to come right back being flat on your face, being like, I don't understand linear composition, I don't understand tone, value, and lighting. You have to follow things in a particular order. Okay? All right? More Paul Felix beautifulness. I love that knife right there. Like the guy with the gun, guy playing cards, this guy's got a gun. All right? More beautiful work. I think this was American Dog, which became Bolt, was part of the name change. That happens quite often where studios work on something, okay? Next, we jump forward to looking at another fantastic master in the world of designing, okay? His name is Dylan Cole. Dylan Cole should be the epitome of what you look at in terms of if you want to be a concept artist and work in games or non-animation related like live action film, all right? Dylan Cole is that guy. He understands Maya. He works in 3D. He knows how to do plates. He knows how to do backdrops, backdrop paintings, and he knows how to do conceptual art, okay? So look at this wide angle shot. Look at how inviting that is to the viewer. So if you're working on a particular film project and there's a giant city somewhere out there, and the great thing is part of this is multiple parts of this is photo bashed. You too, my friend, for a small fee, can become a great artist, right? There's no fee. All it is Google and pulling up a bunch of images and blending stuff together, and look at that. Dylan Cole is without a doubt a master at doing this. He has the ability to take images and blend them together, right? Which, I got to make this comment, when I was working at Big Idea, I worked with a couple of different painters, and a great exercise one of the painters told me to do is take a realistic photo and delete half of it and then paint the rest of it in, making it look like the same image. Great thing to do. Taught me a lot about values and temperaments and detail, right? That right there is a beautiful piece of LA in the future, right? No, I don't know what it's for, but it's something that I just grabbed off Dylan's site. It's a beautiful piece. But do you see the photo blend happening there? And do you see how photo blend contributes to move you towards becoming a dedicated conceptual designer? Okay? Yes, Dylan can draw. Yes, he knows tone. Yes, he knows values. He knows all those other things. Okay? Establishing shot for Avatar. So Dylan's ability to work in realism and his understanding of how to work in 3D using Maya and being able to place textures and plates on top of each other and render them out, come back in and paint on top of that, makes him extremely valuable to a film production. And again, nice story-specific wide-angle shot here. Okay, absolutely gorgeous. All right, look at that shot. Man, look at those characters. Look at the animals there with the characters looking up. And almost, it's like that rock, just this giant boulder almost wants to fall off. But remember, we're talking about a civilization that has floating rocks, right? Trevor's all laughing. Hey, I didn't write the script, all right? I know. I always had a thing with floating rocks. But anyway, still a cool movie, right? Beautiful, beautiful artwork. You got to give the guy credit for what he did. He had to bring together what, Cameron and the art director and whoever else was involved. I don't even know who the art director was on this project. I don't know if it was Dylan or other related people or whoever the production designer was. He had to meet their visions. Remember, we talked about that. You sit in a meeting and you have to know what their vision is of the movie. If their vision is to have a futuristic world where people are riding these funky unicorn-looking horses around and there's like floating rocks, then you have to do your best to come up with that vision. You don't have the option to say, nah, sorry, I don't like that. I only like drawing people in mech suits. Sorry, I only work in purple because it's my favorite color. Nope, that doesn't apply here. Okay? Go down to the EDD office, Employment Development Department, Unemployment Office of California, right? Okay, look at this. How do you do that? Better get a bunch of waterfall reference, get some bird brushes, get some moons, maybe take a render or two, do some overlap with some foreground elements, bring it all together, paint on top, do some minimizing, boom, you're done. Okay? Great stuff. Dylan Cole, such a talented guy. Love seeing this. The great thing is that everyone in this room can look up like base pictures. This would be another great another Photoshop assignment. Go look up photographers' work of like LA and certain big cities, and then come in and have to transform that into a mega city. Wouldn't that be a great project? That'd be very cool. Great way to learn more about digital painting. Look at that. Another one of my favorite pieces, right? That's cool. Yeah, this cool like Frank Gehry style house over there. People on the beach. Look at that. And you have, look at the multiple sunsets. I want to go to that place, man. That's a place of happiness right there. Sit on the beach and fish. Beautiful wide angle shot, okay? Look at the sun. Look at the light coming back into part of this. Look at the atmospheric perspective. Beautiful piece, okay? All right, more beautiful work from Dylan. Sorry, I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit because I know we just hit the hour mark and we have 20 more slides left. Okay? So more beautiful Dylan Cole. So the purpose of why I wanted to add on the last 40 slides is I want to show you what is at the end of the tunnel. I want to show you what is when that carrot of eagerness and want and dedication is hanging in front of your face. I want to show you what's at the other end if you go for that character. If you go for that carrot, okay? You know, imagine a fishing pole hanging over you and you're running forward trying to grab that carrot. That's what's at the end of the tunnel after your practice and your dedication as an artist. It's to get to this level to be able to create this type of work here, okay? By the way, look at this. I love how this is sort of photo bashed. At the same time, it has some of the characters that he's painted in there with light. Has sort of an animation feel to it, something different, something fun. It's gorgeous, okay? Next, alumni from here, from Fullerton College. Also, fellow alumni who I had numerous classes with here with Marshall Vandruff. Also at Cal State Fullerton with Don Lagerberg and a couple other instructors, the amazing Justin Sweet. Okay, Justin Sweet is another master. He knows composing, he knows value. Justin Sweet, along with Vance, they went out, they worked at a couple local game companies. They worked for 8 to 10 years. They did nothing but paint all the time. They worked at Interplay. They gathered a ton of experience. They built themselves up into becoming the artists that they are over time. They went to events. They promoted their work. Self-promotion was huge, right? They go to Comic-Con, other events. Now, by the way, Justin Sweet just lives right down here. He's local, lives in Placentia. I have a cell phone number on my phone. You could call him real quick. Justin, we're looking at your work. No, super nice guy, really talented, amazing. So is Vance. We'll get to Vance in just a second here. But I wanted to sort of wrap up part of this lecture by sharing their work with you. You know, in some weird way, I was talking to that professor I mentioned, Bob Miller. He made a comment talking about knowing different people. And I realized I've been sort of lucky with my path of what I've done in the industry to sort of be in the middle. I've always been in the middle of everything with friendships, with numerous guys. I know a bunch of guys that wouldn't hang out with each other, but I'm the middle factor that makes them all sort of come together, right? It's the same thing, you know, getting the opportunity to work in animation, getting to know people like Justin and Vance, being around these people and knowing them from taking classes, watching everyone build their own talents and their skill sets, and look at where they are now, you know? Just super duper talented, amazing artists that have the ability to just, you know, paint whatever they want and just produce beautiful stuff. Okay? So, Justin, you know, some people used to say, yeah, he's the next Frazetta. And I used to, you know, make some comments. I remember once in a painting class, someone making that comment. You paint just like Frazetta, man. I'm like, dude, you better be quiet because Justin's sort of a big buff dude and he will kick your ass, right, if you talk like that. But the whole point of that was that, you know, I understand why they're making that comment, but I'm like, dude, this guy's just starting. He's hitting his prime now. He's 45, 47. He has another 15, 20 years of painting still. And now he's getting into characters and posing and environments and storytelling. He's just scratching the surface of what he's going to do. And somebody had the nerve back then to be like, oh, you're just another Frazetta. No way. You're way beyond what Frazetta was. Frazetta stopped at a certain point. Justin's killing it right now. He's going forward. This painting was done back in 2009. You know? There's another painting for Green Lantern done back in '09 too. The guy's getting more and more amazing with everything that he does. I wish I could just go into a studio and go, hey, forget that non-disclosure agreement you signed working for 20th Century Fox or DreamWorks or whoever. Let me see the work you're doing now. It's probably amazing, but he has to wait till the production airs, right? All right, here's another alumni from here. Vance Kovacs. Super cool guy. Very friendly, amazing artist. Look at this stuff. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. If that doesn't inspire you, look at that. Look at that beast right there, This is '08 stuff that he's doing here. It's funny because you look at all these different, remember Batman? Recent edition of Batman, see the Batman suit on him? Right? Remember the fight sequence where he's throwing Superman around? That's what that piece is for right there. Vance is on every major, sci-fi based action adventure movie right now, period. Okay? That look familiar? 300 series? Spartans? We are Sparta. Okay, look at all this. It's gorgeous. Okay? Chronicles of Riddick. How many more awesome movies do you get to do, Vance? He's amazing, right? Great designer. Amazing painter. And then something else there. No attitude. No pompousness. He's just a normal guy. He's just a friendly guy to talk to. He's very cool. That's the thing. That's what bugs me. One thing, a pet peeve of mine, is I hate people that become good in the industry and they develop this attitude like they're excuse my French, but like their shit doesn't stink, right? I'm done with that because there's so many other artists that are so talented and they're so super nice. Just all get along as human beings in the world and all treat each other with respect. And remember, this one golden thing is the one artist that might be down 10 years later is going to be up and be at the top of that upper echelon, right? Because whoever works the hardest for it gets it. Sorry, this piece is so digital, it's lacking in resolution. That's the only piece I could find. I wanted to show you some of the work he did for Thor. And then there's another piece there that he rendered out, right? A little bit of photo bash in the background there that's pretty cool. Another great piece. Okay. There's another piece where I remember Vance was, when he was one of our guest speakers here, talking for a little bit, he was talking about like their first impression of like reading that script, and they're on a rainbow bridge, like rainbow, bridge, riding horses, Anyway, beautiful stuff, right? Okay. More beautiful 300 work. Look at that. Amazing. Gorgeous. Okay. Jungle Book. All right. See the progression here? Working on lots of Disney movies here. Okay, amazing conceptual artist. Another great piece. That's what's that one called? It's the one with the chimps and the, what's the fish of the Planet of the Apes? But wasn't there another title after that? Yeah. Rise of Apes or something, whatever, right? So Planet of the Apes series, right? This brings us to our last slide, folks, which is where I just wanted to say thanks to Sparth, Armand, Paul, John, Michael Spooner, Dylan Cole, Justin Sweet, and Vance, because I'm grabbing their work from online sites and being able to share it with you guys. And I didn't ask for their permission, but I think they would all be pretty cool with it. That's why everything I put up on YouTube, I don't do it for profit. I do it to promote, and try to inspire you guys as students and other designers, and I think they would all pretty much feel the same way. So I would highly recommend, if you get a chance, Armand just had a book that came out. Paul Felix doesn't have anything out there. John Tavares is always selling books at CTN and other related events. I heard he's working on his own book. I think Michael is too. Sparth has 3 amazing books. I would highly recommend you go out and buy. I have all 3. I love looking at them. I'm constantly in them, always learning something new. Dylan Cole, I don't think he has any books out or anything. Justin Sweet and Vance just have a book that came out on Kickstarter that they put together. And they'll probably be selling some more copies of that, so I'd look into that work. So anyway, thanks guys, and hope you enjoy this lecture, and talk to you soon. Bye.